work to acknowledge the history of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre and Black Wall Street. The work in this pictorial exhibit is based largely on the writings of former state representative Don Ross. And this land where we stand now is considered sacred ground. This was once home to Black Wall Street. In this image, which is dated 1917, you can see Black-owned businesses. There were dentist offices, attorneys' offices, hotels, movie theaters. There were restaurants, nightclubs, schools, churches, anything you can imagine wanting or needing in your community. In 1921, the Black community had here in the Greenwood district, the most prosperous, successful Black-owned business district in the country during that time. All of that would change on May 31st, 1921. This image here is of Mount Zion Baptist Church. Yeah. And Mount Zion sits just to the west of the Greenwood Cultural Center. In this image, prior to the massacre which took place here, you can see this is actually the church prior to the massacre, and as it is in flames. The massacre took place here 100 years ago due to the false allegation that a Black man, Dick Rowland, had assaulted a young white girl named Sarah Page. Within 24 hours, the community would be completely destroyed at the hands of thousands of white rioters who invaded the Greenwood district, who burned more than 1,000 homes to the ground, 35 square blocks of property, at least 300 people lost their lives, and 300 Black-owned businesses would be completely destroyed. More than $2.7 million in insurance claims were filed by Black homeowners and business owners. Every single insurance claim was denied because it did not contain a riot clause.
It wasn't a riot, it was a massacre.
It was a massacre.
Mind if I look?
Absolutely.
When was
it was rebuilt in the 50s. So they had just finished building this structure, which was valued at $92,000 in 1921, in April of 1921. Rioters destroyed the church, accusing them of hiding weapons and armory inside the church. Of course, they were not. The church decided to stay and rebuild in the Greenwood district, and this is the church that stands today. What many people don't know about the story of the Greenwood district is that by 1925, the African American community had completely rebuilt the Greenwood district. Without the help or support of city officials, the city of Tulsa, with many obstacles to overcome, including ordinances that tried to prevent them from rebuilding their homes and businesses, Greenwood would rise from the ashes. And we saw the return, and as you can see in this photograph, the return of Black-owned businesses. In fact, there were more Black-owned businesses following the massacre than prior to. These are all Black-owned businesses lining the streets of the Greenwood district.
Excuse me.
You're fine. Absolutely. And this speaks to our ancestors' courage, to their strength, to their determination, and to their resiliency. It would be my honor to escort you to 3 of our living survivors with lived experiences who can speak to what they have endured as a result of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre.
What happened between 25 and 50 in that range? The highway became further away. What was the big change?
The expressway, which divided the Greenwood district, which ran through the heart of the Greenwood district, came a little later than the 50s. But several things led to the decline of the Greenwood district. They, of course, rebuilt, and Greenwood would flourish through the 30s and the 40s. But one significant thing that happened was the end of segregation. The dollar, which had circulated in this community up to at least 19 times, was now being spent in white-owned establishments. And when we asked our survivors why they began to spend their money outside of their community, they said, well, we had that right to spend our dollar in white-owned businesses and stores and restaurants if we wanted to exercise that right, not understanding the long-term consequence that it would have on the small business owners housed in the Greenwood district. So the end of segregation, of course, the expressway being built through the heart of the Black business district, which is something that has happened across our country.
Happened in my city. My city, Wilmington, Delaware. We're the 8th largest Black population in America, in Delaware. And the city's more than half African American. And when Dr. King assassinated the riots, and ended up a significant National Guard was stationed in the street on every corner with drawn bayonets for 10 months. Only city in America since Reconstruction. And they ended up building where a lot was burned on the west side. They built I-95, it was through there, and it's submerged. Not much of the places bridges going across. And that's one of the reasons, I mean, being very serious, in this reconstruction plan that put together, we have the ability to have money to go back and take out those facilities and reconstruct. What we're trying to do is do a thing, not like, you know, the big dig at Tulsa, to make that parkland come back in the neighborhoods again. It's something that I don't know whether would be appropriate here.
Well, it would be significant to this community because you, of course, knows what happens when you build an expressway through the heart of a business district. It caused property values to decline, small business owners begin to relocate, and eventually urban renewal would come through, which we often refer to as urban removal.
Yep.
The promise at one point was to completely rebuild this community. That didn't exactly happen. What we have now today at the corner of Greenwood and Archer is a remnant of what once was.
Yep.
I'd like to escort
Are
you
you
to the
from
survivors.
Greenwood?
I am. I'm a Tulsa native. I've been here at the Greenwood Cultural Center for 25 years, since my mid-20s.
Since you're 15. All right.
Mr. President, should there be an apology for Tulsa for the massacre, sir? Mr. President, should there be an apology, a presidential apology for the massacre here in Tulsa?